Paige, here's our fifth lesson of our six-part series. And we just kind of want to start off taking a look at a down-the-line view and just something that we always want to be conscious of in our setup. Typically when we set up here to the ball on the mat, the assumption is that our line of play is kind of parallel here to the mat. So if we line up parallel to the mat somewhere there, kind of be going over in this direction somewhere where the red lines are. And as we can see, if we draw a line across our toes there, we're kind of converging here, pointing out a little bit to the right. Same off of our knees, a little bit out to the right. The tops of our quads there kind of pointing off to the right. And then, as we go up, we see that the shoulders are probably a little more square to these original lines down here on the right. So we know that our overall alignment is a little bit out of whack. So we want to do the best that we can to try to make sure that everything is parallel left of our line of play. So if we say that the yellow line here is the line of play right there through the ball, then essentially we would want everything to be fairly parallel to that. So the shoulders are somewhat parallel to that line, but like we said, we got the feet, knees, and probably hips a little converging, and that just makes it a little more difficult to be consistent, and a little more difficult to know where maybe some of the random bad shots are coming from. We can really kind of doom ourselves from the get-go if our setup alignments aren't closer to neutral. So definitely want to be aware of that every time. So after that, we'll take a look at the face-on view, and we've been kind of working on this somewhat leftward bias setup and overall swinging action. And so we use our lines that we typically draw down here off of the right hip, draw a line up from the left post here, the left leg, and then we can actually draw a line up from the ball, kind of showing where we are in relation to the ball position. The ball position might be a little bit back. Essentially if we saw the ball position, basically just roll the ball forward one ball's width, just roll it over one, and then put the club where the white ball actually is, and that would be actually a bit more of an ideal ball position for us. And then too, from the face-on view, we can see where the shoulders are probably a little open and pointing a little bit more over there towards the bag rather than being square to the ball target line. But overall, essentially a good setup here. And if we kind of square these shoulders up where the right shoulder maybe goes back a little bit here, and then the left shoulder comes a little forward, I think we'll see that overall setup even look a little bit better. So we'll kind of get our swing moving here, and we'll see something. We had been talking about turning the left shoulder down, and in turning those shoulders on a little steeper angle, that'll get the hands and club kind of going more up than around. Even though we want to go ahead and let that hand path work to the inside, that'll get us some upward to our swing. Because we want to swing down at the ball, we got to get the club and the hands up in the air a little bit there. So not a bad job of turning the left shoulder down, but we did notice that kind of what our residual golf DNA is here, that we have a tendency still to move off the ball a little bit, sway, whatever you want to call it. So you can see where our right side has kind of moved to the outside of that line that comes up our right leg, and then as a result we also see over here, use a green circle here, we kind of get some space away from the red line. So we've really shifted not only into our right leg, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but we've shifted onto and over and almost to the outside of the right leg. And so what that does, that just really throws us off balance from the beginning. And so we're going to have to regain our balance first before we can actually start swinging the club, and that just kind of upsets our timing and upsets the rhythm of our swing. Above all, though, it moves us off the ball, and it actually moves the low point of our swing behind the ball. And so we want essentially the low point. If I use the yellow circle here, we would want, like we said, the low point of the swing to be slightly in front of the golf ball so that we can hit the golf ball on a descending blow. But what happens when we move away from the target, off the ball a little bit, we have to do a lot of work to get back over the golf ball and then slightly in front of it to hit down on it, and to trap it properly with an iron off the ground. And so if we kind of move the bottom of the swing back a little bit, and that's where we kind of get those random kind of drop kick scuffs where we don't necessarily stick the club in the ground behind the ball, but the club has a tendency to kind of hit the ground and then skip into the ball, and that just really messes with our consistency, our ability to hit the ball in the middle of the club face, and just will really rob us of some distance. So we want to be able to stay a little more centered here to help us with our ball striking. So the question then was, well, how do we do that? We want to still turn our left shoulder down, but we want to kind of do that and turn in place where our head and our kind of base of our neck there kind of stays in place and lets the golf swing kind of revolve around that. So it's hard to see right here, but we took another club and we laid that kind of right there between our feet and said, I'm going to use a red line to kind of denote where that club is. And we said that when we turn our shoulders, if we were to put a club across our shoulders, across our collarbones, we would want to look down and be able to see that club pretty much right on top of, horizontal and parallel to that club shaft that's on the ground. So when we did that, and as we were going to the top, I asked you, well, what is the feeling that you have that allows you to turn more in place and get that left shoulder down? And you said you felt like more weight went into your left side. And so that's good that you felt that, because that's typically the description of what that feels like for players who are trying to do this. And so you can see, if we drew that line up from the ball, it's right over that shaft, your shoulders and, your upper or your lower neck part of your spine there is really turning in place right there. Very good job of executing that move. And then in doing so, we see that on the left hip over here, we'll use a yellow circle, we don't create any space between that line and your hip. And then over here on the right hip, we've actually created some space here where we moved away from that, because the right hip is moving back and around rather than sliding over to the right. And then also, as you pointed out, we'll put the other two pictures side by side, and we can see the before video is on the right, and the after video, the better video, where we're turning more in place, in a centered manner, in the right way. You can see, as you pointed out, we'll use a yellow line here, and you can see where your right foot is kind of rolling up off of the mat. So your right instep is rolling up, and so that means that we're kind of rolling weight on top of and to the outside of the right foot. And the dead giveaway here is that here's a yellow line denoting all of the part of our right leg that is shifted and slid to the right away from the target. Whereas over here on the left video, which is the after and the better of the two, we've really done a good job of turning everything pretty much in place. And so here's this space that we've created over here with the right leg. And so we're really braced more on the inside of the right leg here. And so you know, we don't intentionally try to shift over onto our right leg, but, you know, some pressure, some weight, whatever you want to call it, does shift into the right side, and that's okay as long as it's weight that's supported with the inside part of our right leg and really braced, so that then we can move more easily and properly and shift to the left. And we'll see that here as we kind of put these two swings in motion, really focusing on the swing on the left. We'll see that the left hip really starts to drive through that line coming up out of the left foot with a proper shift, and everything sequences just a lot better. And so we'll have both swings move through the shot. And there's a lot of similarities there too, but if we can ingrain this kind of move here where we get a very centered swing with the left shoulder turning down and the feeling that we're like you said, feeling a little more weight into the left leg as we go to the top, that's going to give us a really good chance to use the lower body and get the swing moving and have everything sequenced properly here. So again, we'll take a look at Na-Yeon Choi. She's set up similar to how we are. She's going to be a little more square. Again, she does this for a living every day, so she's got to the point where she can just kind of get out of the car in the parking lot, put her shoes on, and get into a good setup position. We have to work at it a little bit, but it'll become natural for us. So we'll go ahead and start taking her to the top, and we will see, like you in your after video, nothing of hers shifts or slides out here to the to her right, to the left of the video there. She's very centered, and whatever weight or pressure has moved into this right side is very braced in that inside of the right leg. She's still up against this yellow line over here with her left hip, so no significant move away from there because she didn't have any move away from or move through the other line on the other side. And so at the top, one thing that we'll see that's a little bit different, she'll get to the top there. She has a certain amount of left shoulder down there as well, and she's going to start the downswing with the movement of the lower body, kind of what we said, get that belt line moving. And she's really going to drive through that there. And the one thing we'll see, the main thing that we'll see that's different between hers and yours, and this is what we'll work on next time, is how while the lower body, the belt line, if you will, the left hip is shifting and moving left towards the target, the upper body is staying turned, yes, like yours, but the head and upper body are staying back. And so we'll pull up your video. So here she is at impact, and here we are at impact. And so we see a lot of similarities in that, you know, both players have moved off of this line up their right leg and really created some significant space here. So we've done a good job there. We've driven through the line coming up out of the left leg, so we got a really good shift into our left side. We can see that over here too. But the most significant difference that we'll see here, another similarity that we'll see, and I think this is very good, and this is going to help us to continue with this concept of hitting down. You can see where Na-Yeon Choi's hands in the circle there are well ahead of the golf ball, and our video is a little blurry, but our hands are well ahead of the golf ball just as we're striking it. So that's going to give us a really good opportunity to hit down on the ball and use the club properly to compress the golf ball with an iron shot. But the big thing that we see is how the upper body, the head, just use the head as the measuring point. We'll use a green circle here. And you can see how her head has kind of stayed behind that center point there. whereas our head has drifted significantly past the center. So we can have it move slightly past that center point, that red line. Again, we said that our ball position was a little back, so that, if the ball position was forward, we wouldn't look as far ahead. But what does happen is if the upper body shifts that far to the left, it becomes a little problematic to actually swing the golf club and have the club catch up to us in time to hit it. So for next time, we'll know what to work on. But for now, let's just keep working on this really good top of the backswing position where we felt more weight over here into the left leg. And we definitely, if we feel any pressure in the right leg, it's going to be right here on the inside, really braced against that inside part of the right knee. And as we do this in practice, we can really exaggerate this. And if you need to feel weight into the left leg to stay centered over this club shaft that we have laying on the ground, then just go ahead and feel like there's even more of that, so that you really don't get any significant shift into the right side, even into the inner part of the right leg there. The more we can exaggerate that overall feel, the better off we'll be, because we exaggerate it to 120%, and then when we actually make a swing out there on the golf course of the range, we'll be kind of 80% or something like that. So exaggerate as much as you can, and then as you play, things will kind of level out, but you'll still have some improvement there. So the takeaway for this time, of course, is this good turn to the top where we stay centered, and then on the way down, just go ahead and let that belt line shift to the left, and feel like you can add this to that, but feel like that upper body, the head's going to kind of stay in its place rather than shift all the way with the lower body. But keep working on what we were talking about today. Good centered left shoulder down, weight into the left side. And we'll see you next week.